Tristan already scaled his AI agency from 5K to 100K per month, but scaling is another thing, and staying there is another. So right now we're working on the content systems in his entire content architecture to make sure that his brand catches up to the scale that he wants to go and go to that consistent 100K to six figure to high six figure months. And my entire mission is to help people build a million intellectual cities. And we do it one by one, step by step, by building intellectual properties that he could incorporate to his personal brand so that he could actually have a content architecture that works as an acquisition process and an ecosystem that drives for conversion. We're going to go over his inner world branding, the acquisition alignment, and the actual content architecture, the systems, AI augmented systems, all these SOPs that needs to be done, and the actual content formats that he needs to try. So, bro, are you ready? I love it, bro. Let's go. So first, we need to understand that every content architecture needs a great foundation, because foundation starts when you actually understand what your offer is, who your target audience, what transformation you're actually giving them, and what steps they need to take in order for them to actually be in front of your door, for them to be attracted. And that foundation drives curiosity. That curiosity changes their belief. The more you change someone else's belief, the more they trust you. And it starts from having their identity dialed on the offer that you're trying to sell them, but that in turn upgrades them to trust. So how do we make sure actually that their identity is going to be captured on our own content architecture? First, of course, we need to understand who they are, their identity, the positioning of our offer, the sales, more and more the client acquisition system. This is more of the pillars of our content system that is dependent in every single offer that you run. For example, in a content offer, in a scaling offer of info products, this one is going to be working out for you. But for example, for Tristan's offer, which is mainly trying to help people start their own AI agency, this might be in the pillars of identity, dream outcome, which is their vision, mission, and core values in their 10-year goals. This could also be family, and this could also be freedom, because we know and understand that 9-to-5ers, people in the corporate space, is super attracted when you sell them about be financially free, location free, and time free, right? And these four pillars make up 2 rooms. These rooms are the content assets that you actually post, your pin carousel, your starting stories, your YouTube assets that gains their trust. When you gain their trust, you already have and generate demand. And this demand can be turned into conversion. So first, what does even like content architecture stand for? Content architecture stands as a funnel, but it's not limited to that. It's a way to find someone's inner world through your personal brand. So for example, who you are, who your values are, what do you actually stand for? It's to create a visual, spiritual, and abstract structure of who you are as a person. People are selfish, right? People are selfish. We all want to make money. But how do we do that? And how do we stop ourselves from just creating a brand that is not going to be standing the test of time? You're not actually building a brand to impact or inspire people. You're doing it for the money and leverage it gives you. So we all have that leverage capacity in all of us, because personal brand is the best investment that you can have right now in this point, especially when people like you are trying to replace people with AI. But there's nothing wrong with loving money and leverage. We all have that as business owners. What we want, it only becomes wrong when you lie to yourself about it. Content architectures allows you to be selfish. Show that you actually love money. Show that you actually love freedom, financial freedom. Because when you build an inner world around that and it's seen in your personal brand, money and leverage becomes a marketing angle that you can sell to people and would attract to people who actually want the same thing. Your inner world desires or demands movement. People love movement. The reason why I scaled so fast in my own consulting business is because people know that I'm onto something. I have got this vision and mission that I want to be an industry leader. I want to be on that top. I want to be someone that is going to change and impact the industry. And when people see that I'm pushing for a movement, they vibrate towards that. They gravitate towards that. So how do we actually make sure that we know the right moves that we need to do in order for us to step by step get our personal brand rolling in terms of how do we actually make sure that the right steps are dialed? So, for example, who you are, you've been through somewhere, just like you, bro. You have massive proof of skills. You've scaled your agency from 5K to 100K. You have massive credibility, but that's at the expense of you not building your own brand. It's like it's been left to the dust because you're super focused in your fulfillment load, like you've been fulfilling to these people. And that fulfillment load drives your scalability downwards. You cannot focus on your brand, and your brand, who's the sole focus of the scalability, is getting left behind. We need to understand if we categorize our content as a way to reach people or to make conversion, because chances are it's basically the same thing. But how do we do that? For example, what I did with my client before is that for other people, they would try to go from here to here. But we did the complete opposite. We first made sure that before we try to go viral, before we try to make sure that we have that top of funnel content, we went back and built the bottom of funnel first. Like speaking on the Dubai beach, speaking with clients, and then showing our value, showing our implementations, and then hopping on podcasts and transforming that credibility and making sure that we're seen with more and more people. But you have to understand that before we went viral, the foundations are already set. So hopping on podcasts and trying to go viral drives top of funnel content, and it drives people to the brand. But the brand that we tried to create, it already has content in there that people could go back to and see the journey that we came from. And so this new identity that we try to create with him becomes a conversion mechanism, and not just trying to push for branding trademarks. It actually tries to push for conversion. What I need you to understand next is the difference between horizontal branding and vertical branding. Horizontal branding is doing individual formats with multiple messages. When you do that, you're pushing for individual formats that is a standalone asset and doesn't work out as collective. So rather than doing that, what you can do is trying group formats with overarching messages. Because branding on a nuclear level, delivering one message and saying it 100 different ways to one branding asset, and people can connect you on this specific thing. For example, for me, the name June Albrechts will soon be connected whenever people talk about content architecture. The first name that pops on their head is June Albrechts, right? That's the importance of branding. That's the importance of educating people on the value that you provide and your mechanism and way of viewing your industry. And so this is the importance of having all of this, because like individually we discuss this and it might not make sense. But when you say this, like when you try a group stage by stage format, just like having horizontal branding that tries grouped formats with one overarching message. Here, in this batch format, we're just trying to say that, hey, we have clients, we have results, we are someone credible in the space. That's the only thing that we're trying to say. We have one message and 10 plus more reels that's getting delivered, but it has only one overarching message. You can see it in my Instagram, where I was first just leaking my Zoom calls on my Instagram. Meaning the story that I'm telling is that I don't give a fuck about this. I have clients, I am someone to listen to, but people can relate with me and my content is really valuable. And then I went on to walk the streets of BGC, meaning I can do this without giving a fuck about people listening to me and me being scared on the crowd, because I know my shit. I can talk about it nonstop, just like this, and I have credibility to provide that walking on the streets doesn't faze me, because I know the value that I can do to change other people's lives. So, for example, this other batch that we did is like him walking on the streets of Dubai, meaning you're actually a business person doing an actual business that stands the test of time. And then he also have his own industry-leading format, which is micro breakdowns, and we stuck to that until the end of the branding mechanism of how to do this. Now, after we have that foundations already, we're mainly focusing on value. So for you right now, your stage that you're currently in, people don't know what you do, who you are, and what your values are. But the main way to bypass the people's skepticism about who you are is you share actual value. Meaning, when people listen to your content, they can implement it and they can jump on their bed and go to their computer and work. That's the importance of value. They can implement it immediately. These micro breakdowns, these podcast feature reels, and then there's visual breakdowns with clients just like this. So when you put this all together, when you drop value in your reels, in your YouTube assets, in your content, you indirectly express your values while dropping value. It shapes who you are. You are telling a cohesive story here. You went from speaking to your clients, speaking on the streets, having your own mental model of how to illustrate your ideas, and then you proceed on opening it up to the space, to your industry, by hopping on podcasts, and you're having your own visual breakdowns to your clients. And then that's when you try to go viral, because what most people do is like they do this in reverse. They try to go viral and hope that they generate conversion from those virality. But like if you do that, when you try to go viral in the very beginning, people have no idea who you are and they cannot track back who this person is and why should I listen to you. You just happen to go viral, right? But if you do this, if you sacrifice not going viral in the very beginning and you set the foundation straight and you tell people who you are and what journey you've been in, when you actually went viral, people could come to that viral reel and they could track back the exact mechanisms that you did that help them be inspired, be motivated, and just add another layer of proof and credibility to the brand that you're building. Next, we want to make sure that we go to the acquisition alignment. So all of this are not going to be worth it, are not going to be valuable if there's actually no conversion behind everything that we're doing. So first, we need to make sure that our offer and content is aligned together to make us money, right? We love money. I made up this thinking process where I analyzed what actually makes an offer grand slam, what actually makes an offer hit high six figures. And if you nail these three topics, these three requirements, you're good to go, right? First, offer content trifecta is a conversion driven reference to align your personal branding content to the highest conversion. So first, what does an offer, a personal brand, and a content architecture need to have in order for it to be converting or high conversion, right? First, it needs to be transformative, right? For you, it transforms someone from being a 9 to 5er to being an agency owner. For me, it could be scaling your business from 5K to 100K, right? And then for other people, it could be starting their own side hustle from scratch or hitting 10K months, right? So you need to actually offer a transformation for it to be shown to other people. That's obvious. Being transformative as an offer is obvious, of course. But we need to make sure that it also is visual. The reason why sales offers and fitness offers are the most saturated niches in the sales make money online space is because they can confidently show the transformation that they get to their clients. When you help someone lose fat, that's visual. When you help someone lose weight, that's visual. When you help someone build muscle, that's visual. When you help someone make money, that's also visual. You can just show your Stripe processors and show the Lambos and the cars. That's visual, right? And the last part is that you have to make sure that it's grounded. What do you think is the meaning of of being an offer being grounded?
The offer being grounded, if it's solid fundamentally.
Yeah, that's actually, you nailed it actually. But to put it more specifically, for example, you cannot offer a 9 to 5er that in 30 days is going to be a millionaire. That's bullshit, right? So you have to make it grounded. You make it, if you're a 9 to 5er, I'm going to offer you a side hustle that's going to make you $1,000 in your first month, right? Now we need to make sure that this specific offer to content trifecta is actually manifested in our YouTube and IG ecosystem, right? So we need to make sure that the YouTube IG formats are education driven. It's focused on educating someone from complete beginner to actually advanced in the specific field or industry that you're trying to teach them. For example, we could do this by a mechanism breakdown, right? And I did this by breaking down the exact structure of how actually content architecture works. It also needs to be explanatory. It could also be in a form of a VSL. Now, we need to also make sure that it's problem solution driven. We need to make sure that when we educate someone, when we make sure that they really are in depth on the field that we're teaching them, especially AI or me on content architecture. So we need to make sure that whatever we are teaching to other people solves a fundamental problem that they're currently facing so that they move closer to the trust that we want to give them, right? And then we actually make sure that we're delivering them and changing their beliefs, right? Because when you change their beliefs, you scratch a surface on their brain inside their head that fuck, they actually think about it. And I actually have to learn something from him because he's not the same from other people that is doing the exact same thing. You need to be a contrarian. For example, this one. Like I saw a debate from three people debating about is it good to have an organic content or do just ads, right? And for me, it's basically super obvious because you could do both. Content and paid ads are two sides of the same coin. And if you nail down the whole premise of content architecture is that you become so good at personal branding, content, and architecture that you become illustrative of how you see your value to the world, and you could just boost that and turn that into steroids when you run paid ads, right? So it's basically the same thing. And I just did a contrarian view on this, and it went well. A case study results, of course. You have someone who went from 0 to 30K per month with your help. So show that, right? Have a case study with that. If you can't have him an interview with him, do a case study of how you actually help them. Because the reason why people gravitate towards me nowadays is because I always shoot content with people like Tristan, people like Zach. I surround myself with high-level people. I generate social proof and credibility to the people that is actually watching me. Because business is gonna be lonelier and lonelier at the top. And if you don't find your tribe, you will never be able to scale consistently. And the reason why people come to me is because I have a circle that helps people individually when they have problems. For example, I have problems. We could solve it when we're together. Zach has problems on a sales process and setting process. Because I see it in person, I can immediately help him and cut the crap that's holding us back from actually scaling. Show all your proof, show what you've done, and show the mechanisms that you've helped people before, right? And how to make sure how to prioritize our content. Because first, you need to understand how to spot the demand and discoverability of a content structure. For example, for you, an easy way for you to start is like how to start an AI agency business. Like how to formats is gonna be super, super exemplary on your field because people have curiosity, but not a lot of people are educating them, right? For me, it's gonna be about just having an industry-leading formats because people are super tired of the actual fucking formats that they are trying. And my market is like super sophisticated. Like my market is so focused on a lot of moving bodies that I don't have control of. So rather than fighting people in their own games, I create my own play, my own game, right? For you, you have to make sure that the crowd is getting educated on what's currently happening. You change their beliefs, relate to their identity, and then therefore generating trust, and it makes you easier for them to close. So demand and discoverability is a priority, right? And offer relevance, of course, is something that needs to be done. For example, I have content which is about my mom. That's a good content to have because it positions you as a authentic individual. But that has zero relevance to my own offer. So you need to make sure that every single thing that you post has relevance to the things that you're actually saying. For example, I could always present myself as an authentic person, but that has zero relevance to the actual offer that I'm selling to people. The one thing that I actually said to Tristan as well is every single post that you create to people opens doors. And if that doors doesn't direct people to nearing the point of conversion, what is the point? So we have to make sure that our priority content has the maximum demand and discoverability, but also relevant to our actual offer. And then we finally go out and move on to the bodies of our content architecture. We just need to make sure that we reverse engineer what works without copying. This one thing that I cringe people a lot about, like just copying the big people, just fucking making sure that one trend goes viral and then they copy and hop on the fucking bandwagon. I don't do that. You see in my content, like I have 40 reels at max. But I make sure that whenever I take inspirations from the big reels that I have, they see me as someone who's different. You see the reels that I have, like the one about content architecture. They see me as someone as a creative, a strategist. So first we do market research, we analyze the competitions, and we understand the exact strategies that we need to take and grab from that specific reel. We decode the gaps and flaws, and then we differentiate. That specific reel that I'm talking about is something that you've watched before. I could say that in a talking head video, me just standing there and saying a script on a Miro board. But I wouldn't do that because people would categorize me from the same exact people that does the same thing that with me, which puts me on a commodity, right? And then we make sure that it's client source topic frameworks. So we make sure that every question of a client from their client journey, all their challenges faced, all their objections, and all their aha moments are documented. By the way, all of this has AI into it, right? For example, all of this, you just need to make sure that all the market research and analysis and exact strategies, and you could put it on dedicated AI that would help you out on to making sure that all your details are dialed so that you can just ask any question into the AI and it basically answers everything, right? Another client source topic for framework is an onboarding interviews, right? 15 to 30 minute calls. What are their biggest challenge? Helpful information and surprises. What I really understood is that when I do these onboarding interviews, people repeat the same exact language that I say to my content. Like I always talk about content architecture. But when I hop on a sales call and my exact prospect is repeating back the same exact language that I say to my reels, and I hear that on the exact sales call, I know this is going to be a 10K deal. I know this is going to be a PIF because they're exactly in the universe which I put them in, right? You have to understand that when you create reels, you post YouTube videos, you put people on your exact language, your world, your inner world. So when people repeat that, you know that you have them on your hands. You have them on your palm. Another thing is your client's milestones, right? Your client wins. Zach was here closing deals yesterday. Capture that. The specific metrics and the before after scenarios. But also, of course, get permission, right? And last one is review call recordings, your note recurring questions, and you capture the exact language that your clients have when they ask you questions, right? My entire premise is I only take feedback from people who actually invested in me. When my client complimented the Miro breakdowns that I did, I was super happy about. I was super fulfilled because the actual people that I helped and invested in me is actually getting help from the value that I provide. And that all creates a feedback loop. So for you, bro, we've already talked about this, but we're going to talk about it again. The sustainable content formats for efficiency. We love efficiency, bro. We're already doing so much work on a day-to-day basis. And the content has to be aligned with that specific formats, right? Because we're business owners. We need efficiency. So first, bro, you're already doing Miro boards, right? You have infinite Miro boards. You can film that again and shoot it and do it in this format. You have your recordings on your phone on top and then the Miro board in the bottom. That's it. You just have your editor cut it and then that's it. And then this is one thing that is special to Tristan as well, because his industry is beginners starting to have an agency. But you have to understand that the biggest fear of people starting an agency is they don't want to sell. They don't have that mentality in them that they're very scared of actually selling to people. Why the fuck would you be scared of sales calls when you know that you're offering transformation, you're offering value to people, but that of course is equating to real cash, right? So why would you be ashamed of that? So in terms of him educating people and making sure that the fear goes away before they even turn into their clients, they understand that this has selling and this has tension in it, but you have to overcome that. One thing that these sales closing frameworks actually work on reels is because you have tension. When you close $18,000 deals, when you close 10K deals, there's tension between someone actually doing this and someone not really investing. People don't know if it's gonna be a yes or if it's gonna be a no, and there's a lot of like shaky emotions in there because it's just big money we're talking. If it's not the right business owners, of course you're targeting the right business owners, and you evade actually people that is, as you said, broke, right? So this closing framework, hands off, right? Hands off. Tristan is not going to be doing anything about that. Just put an SOP onto it and make sure that it's all going to be implemented by his own people, because Tristan, just like me, loves efficiency, speed, and implementation. So if you have any more questions, bro, tell me.
Solid.
Solid. I love it. Um, any more feedback from everything here?
There's a lot of information to take in, bro. But you got it down, man.
Yeah.
You got it grounded. Everything looks solid, and you're an expert at this, bro. I'm not surprised as to how good this is, because whatever's in your mind is efficient, bro, and it's very knowledgeable. And you got it down, man.
Thanks.
This is it. This is the sauce right here.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're looking for help in your content architecture and actually scaling your info products from whatever platform in it, and then you want to hit high six figures, just let me know in the comment section. And if you have other questions, just let me know as well, and we can answer it on my Instagram. You can DM me, or I can make an entire YouTube video out of it. This is the entire episode. Please welcome, bro, Tristan Daniel. Really appreciate it.
Let's get it.
Love it, bro.